Plaza Premium Automobile Studios, powering your drive with 10 brands and 20 locations. Always live on the free Odyssey app. Kathy Barnette on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. You can't stop me! That's all you got.
Woo! How are you guys? This is Kathy Barnette. Thank you so much for listening in to the Kathy Barnette Show. I'm going to get right into it because my guest is already here, waiting and ready. But listen, you are listening to the Kathy Barnette Show. No callers this particular time, but I would love to hear your comments. So make sure if you're listening to me right now on Twitter or YouTube, make sure you leave me some comments. I would love to see that and love to engage with all of you over there. Joining me right now is Mr. Joe Penland, Joe from Texas, a businessman turned political activist. You have heard me talk about Joe so many times. He's the one who sponsored Tucker Carlson live tour. Y'all remember that right before the election last year, right before November 2024, Joe was one of those who sponsored Tucker Carlson, traveling all across the nation. I continue to maintain that it changed me, and I know it had to have had an impact on others and on how things went for all of us in November. So with that, Joe, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Kathy, for having me on.
Yes. So what are we now, 3 weeks into President Trump being in office?
I think you're right.
3 weeks. It has been a whirlwind of, just every day is not a dull moment of him radically changing America. I was actually talking to someone saying he's remaking America right now. What's your take on the speed and the things that he's getting done?
Well, President Trump's always been a man of his word. He promised American people he was going to get right into it and do a lot of certain things. And I think that's why the Democrat Party was so bent to keep him out of office, because they were scared that he was going to do exactly what he said. And I applaud that he is getting right in the middle of it. There's a lot to uncover. Some of it won't be as bad, hopefully, but the bad, I think he'll get rid of.
But what do you think about, USAID, just right off the top of my head, $20 million to go fund Sesame Street in Iraq, $50 million condoms being sent to Gaza, and $59 million we found out earlier this week was going to pay for 1 week of illegal immigrants sheltering in New York City. And it's just a lot of just extravagant waste, fraud, scheming. And as all of this information is coming forward, you would think Democrats would be ashamed of themselves, that they will be apologizing. But instead, these people seem shameless, and they are protesting every single day about how the rest of us should care that these institutions like the USAID is being shut down. Why are Democrats so tone deaf right now?
Well, they sat back and allowed it to happen. And so when it gets uncovered, the first thing you want to do is defend the fact that things are going on. So you're going to accuse the people that's finding the problem and not ever admit that you were part of the problem. Obviously, the things that have went on, especially for the last 4 years, you can't lay that on the Republicans. That at the end of this 4 years, I hope there's a whole lot of credit to go around. But there wasn't much after this past 4 years, and I think that's why they're taking the position they're taking. you always want to kind of deny the fact that when you see it happening, what do they say about believe me or your lying eyes? So I think that's what's going on right now.
I'm just shocked that they think we care that civil workers are being fired or let go, when it was those same civil workers who were managing the outflow of our taxpayer dollars, going to cover a whole host of things that none of us would have agreed to doing.
Well, look at the programs that are truly in trouble in this country. Social Security. So we're wasting billions of dollars all over the world doing things that have no benefit to America whatsoever. We're taking They're our taxpayers' money and wasting it in just numerous ways. And we know that we're just barely at the tip of the iceberg on where this fraud, waste, and abuse is. But when you take that kind of money, and I've talked about taxes a lot, none of us really like taxes. We grumble about it, but we know we have to have a police force, a fire department, a government. We understand taxes. But when you take our taxes and waste it, like there's no tomorrow, and then come back and ask us for more. Just, I don't care what your budget is, Kathy, but if you overspend your budget, don't go next door and ask your neighbor to give you money. You overspent your budget.
It is so true. Side story. We all have family members who constantly call us asking for money. And it dawned on me once that they're not only spending their money, but they're spending my money. And so one of the things I started requiring of those particular relatives, lovely people. But one of the things I started requiring when they would come and ask me for money was for me to see their bank statements, because I need to, since you're spending my money, I need to know how you're spending your money. We need to figure this thing out. And that's how I see this. And it just, I don't know, the other day when I was looking at $47,000 going to put on a transgender theater performance in Colombia, as I was looking at all of this, I just got so upset. And then watching these Democrats kind of doubling down on this, telling me, the taxpayer, shut up, sit down, don't believe your lying eyes. It's just, I just don't know. Like, is the Democrat Party even salvageable at this point?
Well, there's been two or three Democrats, lifelong Democrats, that left the Democrat side and got over on the other side. And when they were asked, why did you leave the Democrat Party? One in particular said, I didn't leave the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party has abandoned the American people. And I think that's what you're seeing more and more of. And that's why President Trump has the team that he has. He's got Republicans, he's got Democrats, he's got independents, he's got true Americans want to see that this country stays on top.
Yeah, I know, right? And speaking of two in particular, former Democrats who are now working with Donald Trump and just got confirmed. We have Tulsi Gabbard and Robert RFK Jr., who is now who was just confirmed earlier this week. What do you think about RFK Jr.? There was a lot of consternation about him, even from the right, those who, like myself, he's not particularly my favorite of those who have been confirmed. There are a number of things I disagree with him on, whether it's related to energy or life and several other things in between. But on the topic of health, of American health, of the vaccines and everything that we lived through during 2020 with those jabs, I am 1,000%, if there was such a thing, in support of that particular nomination. What are your thoughts?
Well, I like Mr. Kennedy. I've had several conversations with him. I got to visit with him for a good while in Las Vegas the night actually before President Trump got shot in the ear the very next day. I had some good time to visit with him. I went on stage for about 10 minutes before him, me and the former Comptroller General Dave Walker, and we talked to a nice crowd, and Mr. Kennedy came out and talked for about an hour. Very smart. And I shook his hand and I told him how much I really appreciate his courage, not taking on one party, but taking on both parties to be an independent at that time. And that's where he was. But, he's very, very smart. And there may be some things you mentioned. There's some things you really are not that high on Mr. Kennedy for, but you're certainly behind a lot of what he's about. But, I look at the surgeon that operated on me a few years ago. I didn't grade him on the kind of car he drove up or what his wife did. I was happy he was the best surgeon in the hospital. And Bobby Kennedy's the best man to run this department for America.
We really do have a crisis right now. I certainly agree with him on his stance against transgenderism as far as it being pushed on our children, the government paying for it. I don't know if you're familiar so Robert F. K. Jr., he's just been confirmed Secretary of Human Health Services. He is the person he's replacing is, I don't know what the politically correct term for this, but it's a man who thinks he's a woman, Dr. Levin. And, talk about somebody standing in opposition of science, what science tells you. That was the person that RFK Jr. is now taking his position. And so at the end of the day, whether I agree with him on everything or not, I certainly don't. I mean, he has to be a step up from what we had in there before, a man in a dress who believes he's a woman.
Well, obviously, he's very smart. He's very dedicated to this country. He's passionate about trying to make America get healthy again. I think the other gentleman you talked about obviously is confused on a lot of things. So I'll just leave it at that. But RFK Jr. is a smart guy. He loves this country. He's dedicated to this cause. He's going to do this country a great service. And I look forward to spending a little more time with him if I get to. And I've got some things that me and him are going to visit with further down the road. So he's going to do us a great job. President Trump's got a great team, and you have to have a great team if you're going to win consistently.
Absolutely. Joe, stay right there. I'm going to pick up this conversation. I want to ask you, you had a phone call with Speaker Johnson. I would love if you would share a little bit of that. Stay right there. We're going to go to a break and be right back after that break. You are listening to the Kathy Barnette Show on the #1 talk radio station in Philadelphia that also covers Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, Delaware. So stay right there. We'll be right back.
This is Talk Radio 1210, WPHT On Demand. On Demand.
Say, wait. They don't want you, I drive you away. They don't want you, I drive you.
Okay, guys, welcome back. I am your host, Kathy Barnette of the Kathy Barnette Show, and joining me is Mr. Joe Penland, Joe from Texas. Guys, you guys need to learn more about Joe. I have been talking about him routinely, but you can go to joefromtexas.com to read more about him, as well as the contract that he has from America that he is going to be handing over to the president and to those to the men and women around the president, I would assume. One such person, Mr. Penland, you actually spoke with him earlier this week, and that is Speaker Johnson. What was that call about?
Well, the speaker called me yesterday. We were going to speak about 20 minutes. We were talking Social Security. We were talking immigration policies, but we got to spend about 33 minutes together. I get with him. He's right next door with me anyway. He's from Louisiana. I'm from Texas. So last time I was in Washington, we had lunch. We talked about crawfish and a lot of other things. So we rekindled that a little bit. But the main topic was, he said the president's going to double down on his promise. He's not going to cut Social Security. And what Elon is doing is finding ways that we can shore that up. Like you say earlier, we don't want to tax people more. We don't want to cut benefits, but we're going to have to come up with some money. And so if we're not going to tax people, we're not going to cut benefits, we got to stop the fraud and the waste and abuse, but we got to have more money coming in too. So there's various ways to get more money, and I favor more people working in the country. I think that would close the gap quicker than anything. We talked about that. We talked about hopefully getting something out to the public before too long on immigration. There's a lot of people been in this country 10, 15, 20, 25 years, came here on work visas, and just never went back. But they've been law-abiding citizens for 20 or 25 years, paying taxes, paying in Social Security, obviously been subsidizing it because they're not going to get it. They're not a citizen, so they're not going to get that check. So they've been here working, and we want to make sure that immigration is on the forefront, not just deporting millions of people, but we got to have immigration in this country like we've had for hundreds of years to shore up our workforce. If we're going to get our manufacturing up, like the president has promised us, we got to have people willing to go to work. So we have to do that. So those are the two things that we talked a lot about yesterday. But obvious other things, we talked about. It's ironic that I was on the school board many years ago, and our cheerleaders put up some banners for when the football players come out on the field, and they had some biblical things there. They had some Bible verses there. And some people got offended and sued the school. Well, it's a small world, but the speaker defended us and we won that case.
And you guys talked about that yesterday?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
You know, I've never had a meeting with the speaker that we didn't talk about those kinds of
Yeah.
things also.
Because it's important. And unfortunately, over these past 4 years, we had gotten into a position where if you say the name of Jesus, people look at you strange. But that is, I often say the U.S. Constitution is the greatest political document ever written because it was founded upon Judeo-Christian values. You go through the Constitution and you're tripping over Judeo-Christian values from the very opening line. And yet we live in a country where today is, people look at you strange when you mention biblical references, and God forbid you mention God or Jesus.
Well, it's always good talking with Speaker Johnson because he is a God-fearing man. He's very loyal to that. He's very loyal to his family. He loves this country. He's doing us a great job. But you know what? He's got some tough shoulders too. I mean, don't look at him and think that you can push him around because you can't. He's very smart. He's very savvy, and he's going to he's taken this job very serious. And he knows we have several things that the president ran on, and the president's going to do what he said he's going to do. He's going to dig into all these things. Maybe we can't just color something completely this way or that way, but he's going to change the way things look, and it's going to be better for this country. And I always like talking to the speaker. He's really a nice guy to talk to, just like Newt Gingrich. I like talking to him. I get one on one side, one on the other, and you use them both for a resource, and you'll come out with something every time.
Yes, I know. So you're going to be talking to Newt Gingrich tomorrow. So that's going to be very interesting. I really like him. I had an opportunity to sit down on a one-on-one for about 30 minutes or so. And I mean, sharp as a tack. He's not stuttering or stampering at all.
No, he's not. I've had lunch with him before. He's a great storyteller. And you just get to sit.
Kind of like you. He reminds me of you.
He is a great storyteller, and you sit there and you listen to him, and you just think about who he was with in the White House, all those different presidents, and you think about what he learned so much from Ronald Reagan. He gives Ronald Reagan all his credit, and rightfully so, I guess. But Newt Gingrich is a smart man, loves this country, but he gives Bill Clinton a lot of credit for balancing the budget 4 times and paying it down twice when he was Speaker of the House. So just look at that resource. And when you get, a man like me to get to go sit and talk to those people one-on-one, that's a privilege for me.
Well, I mean, and it's a privilege for the rest of us as well, because again, you guys can go to Joe's website at joefromtexas.com, and you can take a look at the contract from America. These are the principles that he is walking into these very powerful rooms and sitting down and having conversations with those who sit in high places and who are making the rules and policies that the rest of us have to live under. So it's really good to have the ear of someone like Joe so that he's influencing people in the right way, or at least using his platform to try to influence. But speaking of Social Security, our debt, and the economy, things such of that nature, I'm looking at right now just a list of some of the expenses that the USAID was spending our hard-earned money on. So $50 million to fund condoms in Gaza, $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplace, $70,000 for the production of a DEI musical in Ireland. And the list goes on and on. Do you think, because you got to fund Social Security somehow, you got to fund many of these programs, either by raising taxes on people like myself or cutting benefits. And neither of those seems to be something that our politicians are willing to tackle. So you find them keep kicking the can down the road. What Elon Musk is doing, he just canceled another $800 million in Department of Education contracts. He just announced that he's reduced spending by $1 billion. Do you think that's enough, as well as him continuing on, of course? But do you think that that is a way that we can begin to shore up some of these other programs that we really want to keep?
Every dollar he saves is a dollar not spent, and we can put that to a program that needs it. And absolutely, that's what we need to do. I applaud every time any waste he cuts out, I'm for. Any department that gets cut too much, well, we got to maybe tweak it back the other way. We don't want to cut so much out of anything that this government does that makes us a problem. But if we're wasting money, you need to quit it. There's no two ways about it. And all those people are very smart that they're turning loose. They can get jobs. We got 8 million jobs available today
I know, right?
that we can't fill. So go get a job somewhere else and be paying taxes instead of being paid with our taxes. And let's take that money and shore it up for the American people.
I know, right? Like they need to realize the world that the rest of America is living under, one where you don't have a guaranteed job. You either perform or you get fired. So I think that's a really good example. Last question for you. What do you think about these reciprocal tariffs? When I turn on BBC News, CBS, they're constantly telling us this is going to be the end of America and our economy. What do you think?
I think President Trump can handle whatever comes at this country. He's really smart. And I talked about his team, but he's really savvy. He is a businessman. He knows how to negotiate things, and I'm going to leave that up to him. He'll get us through this. Just look at what happened with Canada and look what happened to Mexico. All of a sudden now they're helping to defend the borders that we've been spending billions of dollars on. So I think he's got a good game plan. You look at how he's hit the ground running so much. Think how much preparation they've done to get to where we are right now. They're sharp. He'll get us through this. He's not going to get us in the hole that way. We're going to manufacture things here. We're going to get this country where it needs to be worldwide. We are the superpower, but you have to lead. And that's what he's doing.
I appreciate it. Joe from Texas.com. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it each and every time you just stop by and give us some of that wisdom. Have a great day, sir.
Thank you, Kathy. Always a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Talk Radio 1210 WPHT On Demand.
They try to shut us down and it ain't gonna slide. Only thing I fear is God and he on my side.
Hey, everybody. We are back to the second half of the show. I'm so grateful to Joe Penland. Again, he's kind of like that great uncle we all need in life. Just somebody who has lived through some things, who can give us perspective. Because let me tell you, as Elon Musk, following him on Twitter, some of the other 20-year-olds that he has working on his in Doge, as they are announcing and informing us about the waste, the fraud. It's just extravagant waste, unrestrained abuse. These people, it's almost as if those who've been running programs like USAID, it's almost as if they hate us. As I'm looking at $50 million to fund condoms in Gaza, like you really have to hate us to think you can do that and get away with it, and you're just above it all. Like, who cares? We the people, whatever. And let me tell you guys, running for U.S. Congress, running for U.S. Senate, working with a very high-profile presidential campaign and walking behind those curtains, I would see everyday Americans walking up to their elected leaders saying, we the people want this, that, or the other. And I could see the disdain on some of these people's faces, some of these elected leaders' faces. I could see the utter disdain, and I could hear them laughing when you walk away. It's just a reproach. It's as if they hate us. And as I was reading through some of the spending of USAID, I'm gonna just give y'all a little list, because if you're not pissed, you should be. I should not be the only one who's feeling some kind of way about what these people are doing with our money. Again, I was just looking. I mean, guys, listen, I got so much data just to piss people off right now, because if you're not upset, you should be. I was looking at the CPI number, the Consumer Price Index numbers just came out earlier this week, and the cost of eggs is up 53%. So before Joe Biden came into office, we were paying $2.09 for a carton of eggs. Now we're paying $4.49 a carton. Yeah, it may not make that much of a difference to some people, but no, it does. This is crazy. The cost of shelter right now is the largest increase on the CPI that came out. I'm just trying to hurry up and scan to it right now. I mean, it's a very long list, over 6,000 different items. But yeah, shelter, which makes up about 35% of the total index of the total number. Right now, CPI inflation is up 3%, but shelter represents roughly 35% of that number, and it is the largest increase. So the thing that has increased the most year over year has been rent. But not just rent, but the cost of owning your own home. Both of those have jumped up significantly, all because of the administration we just came out of. Now, I was on BBC last night, and of course, they're asking me this question. Well, hey, the numbers just came out for January, and inflation is rising. What is Donald Trump going to do? And I'm like, wait a minute, slow your roll. When Donald Trump handed our economy over to Joe Biden in 2021, he handed Joe Biden an economy with an inflation rate of 2%. It wasn't even a full 2%, but that is, I'm going to just round it up. It was 2%. Joe Biden, 4 years later, hands the economy back over to Donald Trump, and we now have a cumulative inflation of up 24%. How does do that math? Because that math ain't mathing unless these people literally hate us. That's the only answer I can get to. How can you inherit an economy of 2%? This is after COVID, because COVID happened at the beginning, like in the third month of 2020. We've gone through all of that. A lot of this stuff is baked in. Now we're in January, and Donald Trump is handing over to Joe Biden an economy that had essentially no inflation at all, or none that is really going to hurt any of us. Most of us are still living our best lives. 4 years later, Joe Biden hands that same economy over to Donald Trump. Not really the same economy, but you get where I'm going. And now inflation cumulatively is up over 24%. And then you have these very disingenuous news anchors who say, oh, that's Donald Trump's fault. Really? The man hasn't even been in office a whole month and it's his fault? I'm not buying it. And then I come to, again, I'm looking at that. I'm looking at this list from USAID. Again, $50 million to fund condoms in Gaza. Yeah, I'm going to just keep saying it. $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces. $70,000 for the production of a DEI musical in Ireland, $47,000 on a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic in Peru, $37 million to the World Health Organization. Yeah, the same organization that did absolutely nothing when it was an opportune time for them to hold China's feet to the fire for allowing the Wuhan virus, the COVID-19 virus, to get out and to affect all of our lives, killing our people, destroying our economy, and they did nothing. $20 million to fund a Sesame Street in Iraq production. Let me see, $2 million, I don't know, something with a subway, $2 million promoting tourism in Lebanon. Do y'all know what's going on in Lebanon right now? $2 million of my hard-earned money. I'm a part of that $2 million, not all of it, but I'm a part of that $2 million. My hard-earned money, your hard-earned money, going to promote tourism in the Middle East. Right there, the country, Lebanon, This is a country that is essentially ran by Hezbollah because the government of Lebanon is essentially defunct. And really, it's the terrorist organization Hezbollah that is running that nation, that is bombing Israel right now, right there on the border. The borders connect. They spent $2 million of our taxpayer dollars to promote tourism to Lebanon. Another $2 million to fund Moroccan pottery classes. And get this, the American instructor they hired to teach local Moroccans how to construct Moroccan pottery. Get that, right? We're going to send an American to go teach Moroccan pottery classes to a bunch of Moroccans. But nonetheless, the American pottery instructor was unable to communicate with the students because the translator did not speak fluent English. No one thought to get someone who can actually interpret. $16 million in funding for institutional contractors and gender development offices. $4 million for the Center for Climate Positive Development, because climate negative, I don't know, $12 million in support services for the Bureau for Resistance, Environment, and Food Security, $6 million in non-emergency funding for redundant administrative support services, $3 million in non-emergency funding for the evaluation services for planning and learning program, $600,000 to fund technical assistance for family planning in Latin America. I mean, the list goes on and on. Under Biden, they went from a budget of roughly $20+ billion to $44 billion, all at the expense of you and me. So if you don't feel pissed, and if you really care about Democrats holding these all-day protests to preserve this kind of just wanton and unrestrained fraud, waste, and scheming, then you are a part of the problem. Yes, I said it. If you don't understand that what is being done, what Donald Trump and Elon Musk is doing to get rid of, to expose and to get rid of as much fraud, waste, and scheming and scamming that's going on, if you don't understand that, and if somehow you're falling for Democrats with their violins telling you not to believe your lying eyes, I really don't know. I mean, either you're dead or you're a part of the problem, or you just can't be helped. Okay, I'm going to take a break. I'll be back on the other side. You are listening to Kathy Barnette on the Kathy Barnette Show on the #1 station here in Philadelphia. I'll see y'all on the other side.
This is Talk Radio 1210, WPHT On Demand. On Demand.
I've been grinding all day and all night. Hall of Fame.
Okay, guys, we are back. You're listening to the Kathy Barnette Show. Go to my website at kathybarnette.com. You can learn so much about all the many different things I am engaged in right now and that you should be a part of. Because the reason that caused me to run in the first place for office back in 2022 when I ran against Dr. Oz and several others for U.S. Senate to represent Pennsylvania, as well as running against Madeleine Dean for U.S. Congress. The same reason that caused me to get out of my happy place, because I was living my best life, minding my own business. Those reasons are still my reasons today. I love my country. And I believe then, as I believe now, I believe then we need better leadership. We need better people who actually love our country. I believe that. I talked about that a lot back then. And I still believe that today. We have a lot of people who sit in high places that, quite frankly, I don't think they even like us. And these are fellow Americans who are elected by fellow Americans to represent fellow Americans. And I don't even think they like us. I mean, like, that's what I'm coming down to today. I don't even think they like us. Or maybe they like themselves a little bit too much, right? I don't know, but I'm doubling down on, I don't even think these people like us. And again, because we are a constitutional republic, not a democracy, but a constitutional republic, I can't just blame them. I cannot just blame them. I have to look at we, the people, because we're actually voting these knuckleheads into office, into high places. So as I said then, I continue to say today, if we want better, we have to start voting differently. Yeah, you got to get involved. We have a number of elections that are going to be coming up. So again, go to kathybarnette.com and you can find out about a number of things that I'm getting involved in that you too should be getting involved in. Coming up would be the school board races. I'm not running for school board, but I'm going to be coming alongside many who are. Let me just get to, before we leave, Tom Homan, the border czar, put out earlier this week that the FBI is leaking information about the ICE raids. I'm sure you guys have been following that when ICE shows up to arrest these illegals, and specifically the illegals from the very dangerous TAS, I believe it's the TAS gang, the Venezuela gang, basically that the Venezuela gang that started in the Venezuela prison system. When ICE shows up, when they locate these people in large numbers and they get all of the ICE agents together to rush in and to detain and arrest these people and get them out of our country, well, when they show up, they're gone. This has happened a couple of times. And Tom Homan came out saying, we know that it was a leak. We're going to find out who this person is. We'll come to find out. They believe they know who this person is. And this person happens to be within the FBI. Dun, dun, dun. We know this, right? Can't wait for Kash Patel to get up in there and to help sort all of this out. But yeah, that is where we find ourselves today. Just wanted to make sure you guys knew about that. Also, these tariffs, reciprocal tariffs, I approve. I don't know about you. I'm tired of being a punk. I'm tired of the world looking at us like we're a bunch of punks and chumps over here. I mean, when you go down the list of how in Europe they're charging us 130% on certain items in order for America to sell their items in Europe, they charge us 130% tariff, like a tax. But then we charge them nothing to sell that same exact item that they produce over here in America. Something got to give, people. So I am all for, just know it, right? When you're talking, because what's the point of me doing this show or anything else that I'm doing? This show, I'm so very grateful for the opportunity to have this platform to share what I'm thinking, but also to encourage each and every one of us. Because I just gave a list of all of the spending just out of the USAID department. I'm talking to you about right now, the FBI, they believe that the leak of the ICE leaks that are happening of where ICE is going to show up to arrest these very dangerous people is coming out of the FBI, even with this reciprocal tariffs. The reason why I am here, I am even interested in being here, is because I want to encourage each and every one of you to get involved, and to get involved now. Just because Donald Trump won does not mean the work is over. It is not over, and he cannot do it by himself. The worst kind of person is a leech, as a person who leech off others, who leech off the strong one. And I don't want us to become a bunch of leeches sucking the very life out of Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and everyone else, because we just say, oh, well, they got it. I'm going to go over here and take my vacation and live my life. Yes, take your vacations. But before you do, make a pot of coffee and walk across the street and talk to your neighbors about something other than the latest gossip, who wore what, who did what to who. But talk about something that really matters, like these reciprocal tariffs. Girl, what do you think about these reciprocal tariffs? I think it's a good thing. Let's start having that type of conversation with our neighbors, because we are being given so much information right now, and knowledge is good. If you are in my home and you walk into my office, right above my door, I have stenciled a quote from Frederick Douglass that reads, "Knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave," because once you know, you can't unknow that. And now you get the opportunity to act upon that knowledge. But knowledge without bravery is still slavery. Let me say it again. Knowledge, it's good to know stuff, but knowledge without bravery is still slavery. Knowledge without you having the courage to stand up and say, I believe this is true. So, for example, Donald Trump has come out on January 20th and said what I already knew, and that is there are only two genders. But now you have to go outside of your house and outside of your bubble and reject pronouns. Reject looking at a man and saying, I'm going to call him a her. I'm going to call him a she. I'm going to be okay with his son, that boy, competing with my daughter or going into my daughter's dressing room or my daughter's bathrooms. That's bravery. As simple. I never thought that was bravery until I was out on the campaign trail. And I was saying this long before Donald Trump said it on January 20th, but I refuse to pretend I was confused. I refuse to pretend I was confused. I'm not confused. I know what a woman is. So I'm not going to pretend that I am confused when someone says he's a woman and I know he's not a woman, right? And people would say to me, you're so brave. I did not see that as bravery. I saw that as just common sense. Who doesn't know what a woman is? Of course, we all knew what a woman is. We just didn't have the bravery or the courage to say it, which made you a slave. As most of you know, I have the blood of slaves coursing through my veins. So it is very important for me to build on the legacy of those people who came before me, to never allow myself to be a slave by any definition of the word again. I refuse to be a slave by any definition. Maybe we're not physical slaves, but I refuse to be a slave in my brain. I refuse for someone to make me a slave by any definition of the word. And I want to encourage each and every one of you. Don't be a slave. Be brave. Knowledge, and Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Doge, so many others, they are giving us a lot of knowledge, a lot of insight that we did not have before. But knowledge without bravery, without you two standing up and saying there are only two genders, and someone come over and say, call me by this, I'm not doing it. Or put a smile on and be gentle about it. No, sweetie. No, sweetie, there are only two genders. I'm sorry. I'm not going to participate in this delusion any longer, because it is actually harming America. It's harming all of us. It's harming the world. The fact that we were sending millions of dollars to force people in Africa to watch a transgender performance So what we do here in America, it matters, not just here, but around the world. You have been listening to the Kathy Barnette Show. I pray you learned something. And I pray, honestly, earnestly, I am praying for each and every one of you that you will have the bravery to use that knowledge so that you don't end up in slavery, whatever the form of slavery may be. Blessings, y'all. Go to kathybarnette.com, learn more about what I'm doing, get involved, and thank you so much for listening. Talk to you later.